They want our women. They want our children.
Pep talk.
Sometimes no means yes. Grab them by the
pep talk.
Grab them by the Marco Rubio. Obama is a racist.
Pep talk.
I'm literally coming. I'm literally coming.
Pep talks.
We found weapons of mass
Pep talk.
destruction. My fellow Americans, it has been confirmed today from Pep Talks that we are indeed all high on politics.
One second, I'm doing a joke for just one person. And it wasn't even that good. I don't even fully get why it was funny, but I had to complete it. All right, welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do, and we're starting with a correction. With apologies to Diana Ross, we're going to be discussing the Epstein files and just generally the state of things. Look, I'm talking to what is arguably the most educated audience in the world, short of specifically Sandy Shellis's audience. I've recently been grappling with that. I've noticed that, I've been trying to talk to other communities, spread our message of how people on this side of the aisle or this general circle think things ought to be run. But I am noticing that I can't conduct myself the same way with anybody else as I can with you. With you, to some degree, I know that if I'm wrong about something, or if I give you a piece of advice that I could later discover might have a downside I didn't consider, I can be reasonably certain that you'll take it with a grain of salt, that you'll understand that I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a geologist. I suppose that would also be a kind of doctor. I'm not an expert on any of the things we talk about, except for, banging MILFs. But apart from that, I don't have any sort of expertise. That first thing, and talking into a microphone through pure accident. And even then, I only know the very basics. So, why is that on my mind? Because we have to now. If earlier plans of the progressive community had worked out, we wouldn't need to make deals with any of these devils. And it puts a bad taste in my mouth to think of the kind of conversations I'm going to ask you to have. But we need them now. We need MAGA voters to start helping us instead of working against us. And the reason we need these things is because as of 2025, we need to pass, or we've been put on a course that means we will have to pass the kind of legislation and take the kind of actions with Congress that are going to require 2/3 votes. In other words, we're going to need to impeach people. We're going to need the threat of impeachment to be a serious one. We're going to need to pass sweeping legislation quickly and with certainty. That means this system where we take on all of the responsibilities for any decent thing happening in America, it's dead. It never really worked, to be honest, with just progressives and only progressives trying to stop the bleeding, deflect the knife, and sew up the wound at the same time. I mean, we just kept getting stabbed over and over, stabbed in the back by corporate Democrats, stabbed at least straight up in the front by everybody else. Never worked. We did not get much done except, to our credit, I think, some healthcare reform. And that's it. Oh, gay marriage. Hey, gay marriage. That's not nothing. But, in this era, as of Trump, us going it alone just hasn't worked. What makes me sad about this realization is that the kind of show I do will only ever truly work amongst you. The just talking into a mic, giving my earnest thoughts about politics, that'll only work amongst you. And it requires you to have a ludicrous amount of education, even to understand the jokes I'm making most of the time. It requires you to know who the head of the FBI is, who the vice president's wife is. The kind of things that Americans didn't used to have as just common knowledge. It's sad, but it's got to happen. So let's get to it. Why do we need 2/3 votes? We need to be able to impeach the president. I'll tell you, I'm of the belief that Donald Trump is going to pass away before 2028. I suspect he might even be out of office by February. I think he is crashing hard. I think his mind is turning to soup in front of our eyes. I think he fell asleep something like 6 times in 6 days. Is that correct? Maybe it was 6 times in a week. I don't know. 6 times in 10 days, whatever. Is falling asleep at even one meeting would rightly be international headlines for a U.S. president. The amount of times this guy fell asleep is the only reason it's not the main story where we're constantly talking about, is he dying? Can he be trusted with the codes? Does he even know what the football is? The only reason these are not constant headlines is because, he's also engaged in piracy, because he's also installing misspelled plaques that he wrote himself as an insult to other presidents, that he's ripping apart the East Wing, that he's kidnapping people off U.S. streets with militias that are not identifying themselves after left-leaning politicians were killed by people who were pretending to be cops. But the fact is, his brain is just about cashed out. I think Sam Cedar of the Majority Report deserves credit because, well, let's go full screen. Why not? Deserves credit because he identified the likely regimen of healing that Donald Trump is on, where he gets injections at the beginning of the month, and that sort of keeps his brains together through close to the end of the month. But more and more, it's become late middle of the month, maybe just around the 15th. It's working less and less. Tinkerbell. I'm so ready to not have a soup-brained president. It's been a decade now. Yeah, easy to forget. A full decade of soup running the Oval Office. It'll be nice to have at least a regular villain back in there. But yeah, he's getting less coherent. And the reality is, we should be prepared to deal with the corruption outside of the personalities connected to it. All this is to say that we need, no, maybe needs the wrong word. It's in our best interest to have conversations with MAGA voters. Develop that skill. Don't worry about winning these conversations. You will be achieving a victory if you talk to a MAGA voter and you never let them get you angry. If they say something racist, say, well, I disagree with that. Anyway, back to the thing we were talking about. They use your frustration. They use anger. They use that as an escape button. When they want to flee a conversation because they realize they're talking to somebody who knows their business, who actually knows what they're talking about, they will try to say something to get you angry so that it can end with a fight and they can save face. If you're just having an argument where you're yelling at each other, well, then you both look foolish, and they'll take that over them looking foolish in front of you. They'll take a little bit of power away from you if they make you angry, if they get you talking about that. Your power is coming from the fact that you do stuff like this for fun. You listen to dry political content. I'm sure you don't only ever watch educational content. But the fact that you do from time to time means that you're going to be very scary to these people. And they're going to be tempted to hit that eject button from the conversation. Don't let them. If you start arguing, you are letting them escape. So what should you be talking about? Where should you always be steering the conversation when you're talking with these folks? Economics. King understood. Everybody who's ever fought for civil rights in the United States eventually came to understand the same thing. What is the purpose of racism? What is the purpose of all of this cruelty? I understand why people would be willing to be cruel if they are evil. But why would you go out of your way to be cruel? Because that is the means by which they launder an economic crime. If you look at somebody like Candace Owens and say, how can she support these people when they're attacking people that look just like her? Or you look at Milo Yiannopoulos and you think, how can he be helping these people when they're attacking him and people who are attracted to the same sex? How? Why? You're not wrong. And I feel the same way. But it does leave out something crucial. Tucker Carlson is betraying people that look like him. What's another one of these devils? Megyn Kelly is betraying people that look like her. They are selling out their religion, at least their professed religion. I actually think these people are atheists, but the religion they claim to be from, at least their cultural religion, Christianity, they're selling that out. They're selling out white people, Christians, and Americans, the very people they say that they're trying to help. They are no different than Candace Owens. They are no different from any of these motherfuckers. If you think exclusively that Candace Owens is screwing over her people, by which I mean black folks, but also Christians and also Americans, you are missing the greater point, which is that all of these motherfuckers are selling out their people. Because all of them know there's a difference between being a watcher of Fox and a creator of the content on Fox. There's a difference. Apologies if you work there behind the scenes. I know things are hard, but it is what it is. If you are working in that industry, then you know, because you have to prepare your arguments for a national audience and not embarrass yourself. Like, say, when your guest points out the obvious flaws. So you have to be prepared to have a conversation about economics, knowing that these people that you're going to be talking to regularly watch folks that are lying to them and selling out their own people and laundering the economic crime that is U.S. conservative politics. Here's how you can be incredibly persuasive over the next year of your life. The next year of your life is going to be the most important time for you to be charismatic, educated, and very, very persuasive. If you were saving up your good cologne, your nice shirt, if you were saving up your mental spoons for being gracious and lovely in conversations, I'm letting you know, January 1 through December 31st of next year is when to use all of those resources. Because we need a massive change in the government. We need a massive change in voters, and also Trump and MAGA, and therefore the Republican Party, are currently bleeding out their most swayable voters. It will be easier for us to sway radical MAGA types than it will be for us to sway a centrist Democrat. To me, the attention of a radical MAGA type is of more value than the attention of a centrist Democrat. A centrist Democrat will agree with everything we have to say about the injustice of it all, but they will never agree to doing anything about it. That is harder to work with. The NIMBYs of the world, they're harder to work with than somebody who has agreed that we need radical change and is trying to do a different type of radical change than we are. If we're simply agreeing that MAGA's radical change is not good, we'll find that we can agree with corporate Democrats. Yeah, MAGA's radical change is not good. But then what? On the strength of that, they get a useless corporate Democrat past the primaries. And then our reputation has to carry the burden of their mistakes. However, if you can convince MAGA types to try your radical change for your specific candidate in your town, you can have a massive effect on how your whole state goes. You have a strong progressive win, a mayoral race, a state representative seat, even a couple of wins on city councils that will affect not only how your actual laws are voted, because you have a progressive in power, on the way in which your laws are voted for. I don't know how I was meaning to phrase that, but anyway, not only will it affect the actual votes that they take, but it will affect the way all other candidates in your state run their races. It will affect the rhetoric across the board. It will change the Overton window that is huge right now. I'm not sure, says the letter hack, corporate Dems are opposed to MAGA. You know, maybe. But I'm talking about their voters. The sort of people who voted for MAGA versus the sort of people who regularly vote for corporate Dems. I think we have more value in conversations with MAGA. Because even if you don't, I think the value you're going to get out of the corporate Democrat is pretty much set. You can rely on them for their vote in the general election. You cannot rely on them for their vote in the primary. But MAGA, these are people who fundamentally believe the power in America needs to change. And even though they are wrong about basically everything else in their lives, we actually are trying to radically change the power in America. Like, that's the whole thing we're trying to do. And I think we can get them on our side. Yeah, and we have to be preachers. I don't like this. I think we're gonna have to get really used to higher rates of cancer amongst progressives, because we have to swallow all the things that we want to say. And it won't feel good. And we got to take those fair and righteous emotions and just push them deep down and let them become the cancer that will kill us. Because the world needs us to be evangelicals right now. The world needs us to go around preaching the good word of economic sensibility. Still haven't issued my correction. I should probably get to that halfway through the video. But before we get to it, let me end by saying you will need to have an understanding of economics to have these conversations. It is actually not hard to become Berkeley level educated anymore. Robert Reich, Bill Clinton's former labor secretary, father of Sam Reich, who runs Dropout TV, founder of Dropout TV, out of the bones of college humor. He put his last course that he taught up free. Wait, let me try that again. He put up for free the last course that he taught at UC Berkeley. I have watched it all. It's on YouTube. It's right, y'all. I've watched it all. It's fantastic. I think most of the concepts taught in there you will already know. But this is perfect because it tells you the specifics of why it is so. And he also does a great job of arguing against the things he believes, against the things he's teaching. Why would you want that? Well, you ought to know the weaknesses of your own beliefs. You ought to know ways in which your beliefs will be challenged. And you ought to have the ability to challenge your own beliefs yourself. It is a great course. It is called Wealth and Inequality. Should have had this. Excuse me. It's Wealth and Poverty. And you can view it for free on YouTube if you just type in Robert Reich, R-E-I-C-H. But yeah, Wealth and Poverty. Very enlightening. I would recommend, if you have the time, if you're just looking for podcasts to listen to, just save the playlist somewhere, and every once in a while, listen to one of his classes. I went through the whole thing in about a week because I listened to socialist policy in the same way others enjoy conventional pornography. But you don't need to even listen to the whole thing. You don't need to certainly binge it. You just need to have some sense of the real nuts and bolts mechanics of how the economy works. When somebody asks you what your reasoning is for why, for example, you think the rich should pay more in taxes, you should be able to give a coherent answer. So if you want to be able to do that, UC Berkeley, Robert Reich, you can also test yourself. You know, you watch this content, good. The people who respond in the comments may not necessarily represent everybody who's watching right now. I happen to watch a lot of stuff and just stay out of the comments because I like to be anonymous, or often, like when I'm watching Sandy's stuff, I don't understand the topic well enough to voice my opinion. But if you want to test yourself and find out, how much do I really know? Well, UC Berkeley is arguably one of the top schools in America, period. It is certainly arguably the top state college in America. If you listen, and Robert Reich is one of the most respected lecturers of all time, any country. So, if you can take one of his classes and understand it, I think you'll all find that you can. And I think your confidence is going to increase massively. But it'll also give you some surprising things that you didn't know you might have needed. Like, for example, if you're looking to make some ground with MAGA types, one thing you can do is establish that it's okay for us to hate politicians from our party or to disagree with politicians from our party. So you can cite Robert Reich, Bill Clinton's former labor secretary, as a reason why you don't like Bill Clinton. Not everywhere, Donald James X, just some streams. And that strip club, they won't let me in the front door anymore. But not everywhere. And I don't harass the dancers in the parking lot. I get up by the dumpster. I try to look in until Steve catches me, and then he chases me. It doesn't matter. The point is, I fucked up with Diana Ross. I have to get to the correction. So after the first batch of Epstein files came out, I saw that Diana Ross was in one of the pictures. Probably should have had this up to begin with. Just to, refresh your memory. It was, that's appropriately blurry. It was the one I'm going to put on screen right now. Yeah, that right now. What? One second. Hold on. There we go. That right now. You know, the one where it definitely looked like Diana Ross's, in my opinion, titties were out. They weren't. In the unredacted version of that file, what was blacked out were her kids. Here's why. So I acknowledge I was incorrect. I'm sorry, Diana Ross, that you got caught in the crossfire. But here's the other thing. Who the f are you hanging out with in that picture? Even Michael Jackson has the 1,000-yard stare. What did he see on the island? See, I don't feel that bad for associating Diana Ross with the crimes of these fucking diddlers because she was hanging out with a bunch of diddlers on a private plane. All of these evil sons of need to be punished. Now, it can't all be legal. Diana Ross, no, there should be no legal punishment for being in the vicinity of a criminal. But these folks that regularly hanged out with Epstein, like, for example, people that flew on a private jet with him 8 times, those folks, they saw things. If nothing else, they saw things. They knew things. They saw children with this guy. Even if, oh my gosh, oh, it's more. Oh no. Hold on a second, gang. I'd rather just find this. Huh. Okay. We'll play this in a moment. So even if these people didn't directly partake in the diddling, it would take a massive amount of ignorance, stupidity, to see all these kids around Epstein, to hear about what he was doing, and to not know that every piece of business he did with this guy was supporting a child molester. As far as we can tell, he recruited children out of Mar-a-Lago. He was not subtle about it. And I hope I have the right clip, because now we're going to show what somebody who hung out with Epstein thought about the guy.
From 1992 from Entertainment Tonight, which is owned by CBS Television. In it, Donald Trump is heard making questionable comments about a young girl. Let's listen to that.
Soon. Thursday night. You going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it?
Yikes. That's not even the right quote. Sorry.
You can
that
hear
was
him
evidence.
say, I'm going to be dating her.
That was more evidence that Trump is a diddler. But, and I'm sorry I don't have the exact video, but Trump famously said, actually, I don't believe it's a video, it's a quote, but Trump said, Epstein, let's take out YouTube. Yeah, house.gov. There we go. Donald Trump said this of Jeffrey Epstein. I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy, he said. Wonderful guy. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Let me say that again. Even if you don't believe that Trump was diddling children, and by the way, new Epstein files dropped in which Trump is accused of diddling children. But even if you don't believe that Trump knew this or did this with children, it's hard to deny that he knew what Jeffrey Epstein was doing with children. And by the way, what I'm telling you now, try to memorize the way this is done for when you talk with MAGA voters, because this is one of the things that MAGA folks are going to break off over. Maybe we're not going to have an avalanche where everybody goes all at once, but you know, we talked with Portable Orange, and he had one moment in his journey where he was on the far right and he was willing to leave. There's going to be, every time one of these things drops, there is going to be handfuls, swaths of MAGA folks that that say, I'm ready to leave, or maybe I'm ready to leave. Those are folks you should talk to. And when you are talking to them and you're discussing things like this, just be prepared to get ready to throw out your own trash right alongside them. So even if Donald Trump wasn't diddling kids, look, he clearly knew. He knew Jeff for 15 years, during which he saw many of the things there's photographic evidence of him seeing in the Epstein files. And yet he thought he was a terrific guy. He was willing to tell the press anyway. He was willing to keep the world thinking that he was great. Apparently, he had a lot of fun with Jeffrey Epstein. He's a lot of fun to be with, says Donald Trump. This is, by the way, in 2002, when he's talking to New York Magazine. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. He knew. He knew. Even if he didn't partake, he knew. And he ran cover for the guy. Now, when you say that true thing, that even if he didn't diddle, he did know. Also accept that for the Democrats that you see, for the famous supposedly left-leaning people that you see. Don't for a second hesitate to say, if, for example, they accuse Bill Clinton of being a diddler, it looks like Clinton was a diddler. But don't be hesitant to say, hey, we might not have evidence yet for Clinton actually diddling, or whoever, Noam Chomsky, God help us, actually diddling. But you would be hard-pressed to say that that guy didn't know what was going on. So damn him too. None of these people deserve our alliance, our allegiance. And what MAGA will be looking for, and rightly so, is for us to try to deceive them, for us to try to win them over to our side with a lie, with a twist of the truth. Do not do that. Be very willing to sacrifice every last one of these miserable pricks who flew on this guy's plane, who hung out around him, who let themselves be photographed in a room with him to be used as propaganda. If they were blackmailed into it, I don't care. They made a deal with evil They sacrifice children for money. Which brings me to something else. QAnon. They warned us about child sacrifice. Literally did. They warned us about a ring of powerful pedophiles protecting each other and torturing kids. We had good reason not to believe them. But if you want to make a ton of inroads, if you maybe even want to take some of these people and return a measure of their sanity, we can acknowledge that they were onto something. And we should also take a moment to ask ourselves, amongst, trusted opinions, why is it that when wild things happen in America, they are accompanied by a right-wing conspiracy theory? See, I think those conspiracy theories, I'm sure they bubble up naturally, as happens with everything, but I think the flames are fanned by people who have an interest in diluting our knowledge, by people who have an interest in making sure that serious folks don't take such accusations seriously. That's you. Look, it's not just with the Epstein situation. It's not just the Epstein class. During the early 2000s, I worked with people who believed that 9/11 was an inside job. And here's the wild thing. There ended up being some truth to their suspicions, not their claims, but their suspicions. Because 9/11 was not an inside job, other than the incompetence of our FBI and CIA, but it was earnest incompetence. What was the scandal, what was the lie the government was telling us, is that they were doing anything about 9/11. They weren't. They used it the same way Israel is using the October 7th attack. They used it as an excuse to do violence against another country. That's all. Yet that conversation was not had. Instead, there was people talking about how jet fuel supposedly can't melt steel beams. That's what we were talking about, not Colin Powell is lying. Not there's whistleblowers saying that they're lying about Iraq. We weren't talking about that. It was crazies on one side and reasonable people obeying a rogue government. Again, it happened with Epstein. QAnon made accusing a Democrat of sexual wrongdoing into something that only silly people do, only ridiculous people do. And I think, frankly, progressive community, I think we reacted appropriately given the accusations. But that's twice now in my lifetime that major government scandals have been accompanied by a right-wing conspiracy that makes questioning the basics of the scandal seem ridiculous. Now, this doesn't mean that we should start listening to right-wing conspiracies, because they are wildly, cartoonishly off. They are, the very point of them is to not, I think, to not be correct. I think it is running cover for the bad guys to participate in this. I think we should get people to not participate in these things. And yet, we got to learn. We should take it seriously. We should say, this is a sign. This is a sign that somebody right now is covering up something like this. The next time they're ranting and raving, next time they say there's blue bears coming in from Canada and they're going to eat us all. They're blue human-eating bears. We're going to have to listen to that and try to decipher what is actually happening from the rantings of these madmen. Because something is happening, usually, with this stuff. And they're usually all up in arms about it, I think, because the craziest amongst them are getting signal boosted to stop any conversation from happening. Those Charmin bears are coming, man. Oh. Space lasers are real. They're just non-denominous. Yeah, we have non-denominational space lasers, folks. I know they think it's Jewish space lasers controlling the weather. That's ridiculous. The Jews don't have that kind of budget. There aren't that many Jews in the world. It's non-denominational space lasers that are being rented out to various religions as they need them. Drop bears are real. Do we have another fan of the One Shot podcast here? My word. Or is that just straight up Star Wars? Oh. All right, I got... I'm sorry, I really never got around to... really even the main stuff I wanted to talk about. Look, a couple of things before I forget. Let's start with T-Bone. Hey, gang, I think this is really healthy. I've been following T-Bone for months now, and he is doing something that I've asked members of the audience to do as an experiment. He's using YouTube the way I used to use Facebook. He's posting pictures and text because YouTube has that function on the community tab of your account. If you want, you can make posts just like it's Twitter, and that will go into the feed of folks that follow you. I'm going to ask y'all to do this, what T-Bone is doing. Make no mistake, this is propaganda. And we are engaged in a propaganda war. And whether or not you think we ought to be does not change the fact that it's happening. There is already Republican messaging everywhere you can turn your eyes. Counteract it, because they have money to pay people to post things. We have people who hopefully we can convince to post things. That's me. That's you. If you are one of the This Space hosts, I don't know that I would extend this to you, this request, because I think you might have more value in being a pure video channel. I wouldn't want you to risk losing a subscriber because of your posts. But if you don't post videos regularly, or it's not a major source of income that you're relying on, then help us spread propaganda. Join, for example, the General Strike US. Go on their media team, and occasionally they will produce things that they ask you to repost. Repost it to YouTube. And I think the kind of thing T-Bone does is perfect. He writes essentially an opinion column. Sometimes it's just a paragraph. Sometimes he'll write something that's like 600 words, He'll accompany it with a photo. Look at that. He's even got a watermark now. And hey, he's growing in popularity already. In the couple of months I've been watching, he's gone from having only one person, your old pal Jake, liking his posts to, it looks like, about 5 people now pretty regularly get in there. And I'm hoping it keeps growing. I'm also hoping you all make a habit of occasionally posting on YouTube. This is an underutilized section of a whole social media platform. You can use it to redirect people to live streams that you think are important, but you can also use it to practice some of the rhetoric I was talking about today. Clinton is bad, and so is Trump. Toss them both out. It's another line we can put in the water. And no, don't expect to get paid for this. You won't. Don't expect to have a post that gets 1 million shares. You won't. But if you can get a handful of people over the next year to vote differently because you put up a good piece of propaganda, you could literally change the course of human history. Truly. We're at those kinds of margins right now. If you can get a handful of people to vote in a way that is useful, do it. It costs you nothing. And it's a great way to practice rhetoric. It's a great way to practice formulating your thoughts. Yeah, for the love of the game, baby. Also, yeah, I do genuinely enjoy his posts, but of course I do. He's T-Bone watches this content. We all are thinking similar things at similar times. Of course I enjoy his content. But the interesting thing to me is that other people do as well now too. And he's getting better at it. As he posts, he is developing the skills necessary. We need people like this, by the way. We will eventually need, as this space itself, but really all progressive media grows, we are going to need people who are familiar with all aspects of social media. And if you start now, consider this an independent internship in social media posting. If you start now and you learn what is a good post, what is a bad post, what was popular, what was not. If you can do that in this low pressure version of things, then you will be ready for a high pressure version of things when we need you. And we will need you. All right. I truly did not even get to all the things I intended to talk about. So we're going to just jump to... We're going to talk about this actually instead. We were going to talk about CVS. By the way, I'm going to host a pirate radio stream where we watch the forbidden CBS 60 Minutes clips. We had a viewer who is a wonderful human being, who I actually am not going to identify just now, who provided it to me from the great nation of Canada. And I am going to play it for you because fuck Barry Wise. Yarhar. Stream more, maybe. But stream with intention. Yeah. I don't want to contribute to slop, but you're right. I should stream more, but that also means I have to be better. DJX, I just wait for people to come to our side. I feel that's all I can do. All right. I get it. I do. But there's waiting and there's preparing. And I think you can prepare. Because you're not wrong, by the way. You're not wrong even to conserve your energy. If you don't have to go burn yourself out on trying to convert somebody who says they don't want to be converted. But what you can work on is helping people on board. So I actually think you in particular, DJX, are going to be really good at this. there's going to be people that show up at our doorstep, so to speak, in the rain, dripping, sad, having just recently realized that Donald Trump was lying to them. In fact, all of MAGA was lying to them. In fact, they've been living a lie for the last 10 years. In fact, they gave up their family and friends in order to follow somebody who they thought was going to make their life better and instead just wasted 10 years of it. When that person shows up, you can be very ready to be welcoming. Again, you don't have to have actively done anything up until that point, except for think about ahead of time what kind of person you're going to be. In other words, run in your head. The only work you have to do to prepare for this is run through in your mind the sort of things you're going to say. And for that, you should know what you want out of them. Do you want them to stop listening to sources that lie to them? Do you want them to start listening to sources that you think are good for them? Do you want them to just think about it a little bit? I don't have an answer for you now, but think about it. Because that's how you prepare. And just if you need a guiding light, imagine the situation were reversed and you were showing up to them feeling morose and saying, I don't want to fight. I just want to admit I was wrong and ask you, how can I be right? And be as kind to them as you would want them to be to you. And given the fact that you are one of the kinder and stronger human beings I know, I think it'll be easy. Okay, last thing, I'm going to just rush through it. Yes, well, 100%. Welcome with empathy. Yeah, and you can play a musical instrument, which goes a lot longer. What's up, Nadia? I am going to check out that video you sent. One last thing. I suppose I'll do more of this in a separate stream. Hey, Nicholas, would it be of use if I went overtime at all? Probably not. I'll just rip through this really quick. You must right now, with the rest of your day, decide what do you want out of the Epstein files. Pretty soon, we're going to get to a point where demands are going to be made. The Trump administration is so incompetent, they are actually getting people more angry about the Epstein files than they were. We should direct the conversation, because otherwise the conversation will be directed somewhere useless, somewhere that spares these creeps. So, you progressives, you direct the conversation by knowing where it ought to go. Here's what I recommend to you for what we want out of the release of these Epstein files. Who was there hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? Why were they there? Did they know what Epstein was doing? And why were they not charged? For redactions, it's simply this. Why was the person redacted? And if they were not a victim, why were they not charged? If they were a victim, were they only a victim of Epstein, or was it somebody else? And why was that person not charged? If Epstein was a sex trafficker, who was he trafficking for? There are too many girls, too many children that got trafficked to just be for the personal use of one pervert. Think of the simple questions you want answered and be prepared to ask those questions to people who you want to be appropriately angry. That's all the time I've got, gang. Yep, that's all the time I got. Thank you so much for joining me today. Merry Christmas, by the way. And Happy New Year. And what am I talking about? I'm going to see you tomorrow night for Left Past 10. But we got other stuff still going. It's this space. I don't have a gentle exit. So this is WYCD Wicked that says where you can do. My name's Jake.